It's not just, they don't.
They transcribed. It didn't say it's being.
I think it do say when I.
Oh, it said it earlier because you
Yeah.
lost it. Gotcha. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to order this special meeting of the Wellington Board of Selectmen, May 13th, 2026 at 7 p.m. We're going to jump right into present to speak. Standard rules apply. Contain decorum, be on topic. Time may be limited so that we can keep on schedule. So we'll start in the room. Anyone here present to speak?
Nick Settle, Myrtle Road. So for now, just keep it short and sweet is, there's. I and others have identified that there's potentially conflict here with. Jen being on the Board of Education, pushing for a massive tax increase. And then your enrollment in getting this to pass. So I just want, I'm not saying there's anything illegal. There's nothing maybe on the books that you can't do it, but there is definitely reasons to see a conflict of interest. I know you and I are going to disagree on that. I get that, that's fine. But from my point of view, there's definitely a conflict of interest. I hope that you do the right thing and excuse yourself from this conversation.
All right, so I'm going to address this because it's a serious accusation. First of all, this is not how we air ethics or conflict of interest concerns. We've discussed this 100 times. You send an email, you send a letter, you stop in, you call, you make an official complaint, because if there is an ethical or whatever conflict, it has to be addressed. It should be investigated, it should be reported on. That means that the people can be assured that if there's a concern, it's addressed. And if there is not a concern, we can put this to bed instead of coming to every single meeting and talking on social media about a conflict, but never actually resolving.
Well, who would
So let's resolve.
would be trusting you to do that? I
If
definitely
you
would
would-
not trust that.
Well, I wouldn't expect you to, and I would not investigate my own conflict of interest accusation. That would actually be a conflict of interest.
Well, it wouldn't be the first
So-
thing that you've done, but yes,
So these are just cheap shots, Nick. That's my
factual.
point. No, it's not factual. If you have facts or you think there may be facts, report them. You can report them to the other selectmen. I will also tell you, because of my ethical basis, if you sent just me an email and said, Mike, I think you have an ethical problem, I would still share it with the other selectmen. Because I'm not gonna put myself or my reputation or the town in that position.
well, based on past experience, that's not true, but go ahead.
And again, this is just drama, it's just showmanship. So here's the thing. If you have legitimate complaints, submit them, they will get addressed. If you are not going to submit them, we're not going to entertain them in present to speak anymore, because it doesn't get us any.
I'll still
It's
talk
not
to
on
people who
topic.
hear that.
And then what will happen is, if it keeps going, I'll gavel you out as out of order. By the way, I've already checked to make sure I can do that legally.
That's fine.
I will gather you out as out of order, and you'll have to come back to order, or you'll be asked to leave the meeting.
That's fine.
Bring legitimate concerns. If you think I'm doing anything wrong, complain about it. Let people address it and determine if there's a problem. If there's a problem, we address it. If there isn't a problem, then the truth can be out.
Oh,
And
yeah,
we. Anyway, that's all I'm gonna say on it. I'm done with the baloney ethics accusations. Put it in writing, submit it, let somebody investigate it, or let's move on. Okay, it's just drama.
oh, it is.
Yes,
Yeah, I agree.
so. Continue. Anything else?
Yeah, I hope you excuse yourself from this potential conflict.
Why, what would be the reason I would excuse myself from this meeting?
Well, maybe, you didn't hear me earlier, but your wife sits on the Board of Education.
I'm aware of that.
Oh, okay. So you don't see the conflict?
There is not a conflict.
Okay. Cool.
People in town
We
process
can
an
have this here
entire.
for an hour, it's not gonna go anywhere. I've made my
I'm
statement.
trying to address a concern you're bringing up in front of the townspeople in a meeting. Two
You can-
people in the same family being on two boards in town is not a conflict of interest. It happens all over the country. It is sometimes how we get enough people to participate in boards and committees. Because you have families of people who are willing to put time into the town. It's not any kind of conflict,
To you, that's an opinion. It's my opinion.
but you have not
My
yet,
opinion.
you have not yet produced any information of what the conflict is.
What is the conflict then?
So you
I
have,
don't understand the
so
conflict.
you have this person pushing a massive tax increase. Somebody that's openly said that he wants a massive tax increase on his personal account, not.
I did not ever say that.
Okay, well, tax don't lie, so. So you have somebody that's openly stated that they want a massive tax increase.
I haven't heard anyone say that.
I have never
I
said
can show that. I mean, obviously I don't have it right in front of me.
because it doesn't exist.
I'm on, okay, but regardless, what, so,
So if you don't see the conflict, that, I'm not here to convince you or open your eyes to that.
okay,
So, I mean, I know
Well, I
I'm
say it.
the only one that's seen it.
okay,
So,
I don't see a conflict of interest.
that's fine.
Because, just because you have two people that think alike.
We're entitled to have different opinions too.
No, that's fine.
Yes, but facts also are facts.
Sure.
Right, okay, so as Andy just said. There are a lot of people who have similar opinions.
Sure.
Right? You have political committees where the people on that may be aligned. You have people in families who may be aligned. There's no conflict in that.
Hey, that's your opinion.
All right, so do you have any other topics you'd like to
No,
discuss?
that's it. It's
Okay. Is there anybody else in the room who would like to speak and present to speak?
Peter Wilkinchich, 97 Pasco. I'm thinking of our prior discussions on changing present to speak. It's hard not to comment on this exchange. I think it illustrates the danger of a back and forth dialogue. So present to speak. And urge you to consider that carefully. With respect to your agenda tonight, which is my main concern, I continue to express my frustration and disappointment that the townspeople are not afforded an opportunity to form of a public hearing to address the budget. It seems the town government ample opportunity to have special meetings like tonight, special meetings like the one downstairs on the town governance. But it seems we never have an opportunity when there's strong interest evidenced by the rejection of the first budget. In understanding the budget better, particularly since the first and only public hearing we had was somewhat truncated because we didn't have information until we arrived at the meeting budget was. Circumstances surrounding that, not arguing about that, but all the more reason to give townspeople an opportunity to understand this budget because we're all in this together. And there's been lots of good ideas expressed by townspeople on how we find solutions to the budget. In fact, Andy, when you had that additional conversation at one of the town meetings where you tried to have more dialogue like that, I thought that was a real step in the right direction. So I'm expressing my disappointment that we could not find a way to have a public hearing prior to the town meeting you're gonna set, because it's obviously not on your agenda, which tells me it's not a priority. I think the townspeople should always be a priority, should always welcome participation. That doesn't seem to be happening. Thank you.
Well, I have to ask, I know present to speak, but like, I just like clarity. And I'm not, whether it, just so I understand, is not the town meeting the public hearing about the budget?
Well, it's
Because it says right here, a town meeting is called to decide, to discuss the proposed budget. Isn't that the public, I mean, I believe it is. Why isn't it?
I'm hesitant to respond, because I don't, if you ever read here.
No, why doesn't that satisfy the need of the public to discuss the budget? Because that's what the.
I'll just say this, it's a one-sided situation again, at a town meeting. There can't be any opportunity to make changes, it goes automatically to referendum.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, no.
And
Well, as far as I can tell, when I researched that, we do not have to do that. We can continue the town meeting. It's in the statutes. town meetings can be continued. They can sometimes be continued with 14
Well,
days.
Andy, if that's true, then no one will be happier than
We've never
I.
done that.
And I think a lot of townspeople would too, because the feeling is it's a fait accompli. You come in, yes, this is the budget, we have a discussion. We don't have the opportunity to send it back to the Board of Finance if there's a feeling that changes need to be made. We heard that last night at the Board of Ed's meeting. There were a lot of people who expressed that, can we have that opportunity? The answer was no. Because it goes automatically to referendum. So there's not really an opportunity to do that as best I know. And I'll say no more because
Okay.
I don't want to use President speak. Thank you.
I do want to address just a couple of factual things because I think it is important, the ability for the townspeople to participate, I completely agree with your point. And to some extent, it's true what you're saying about the town meeting, it's essentially set. The call is set, the numbers are already in it. It is sort of a fait accompli, as you said.
Statutory.
Right, it's a statutory process and there isn't an opportunity really to make a change in those numbers. At least as best as we're all informed. However, there was a hearing at the beginning of this part of the phase of the budget process. You attended that hearing. That is the budget hearing. Everything that's happened after it is downstream of that hearing. It is a product of the process. That was the budget hearing. And you said that there isn't an opportunity for public input. You also said there have been a whole bunch of meetings in between that. There have been probably 7, maybe 10 public meetings since that hearing that public participation has been involved in. So the public has been participating. As a matter of fact, the Board of Ed meeting the other night, we saw new people we've never seen before participating in the Board of Ed. So the public is participating.
Which is fantastic, but then there's no opportunity to change anything with public input, the process.
Public input is happening in every one of those meetings and they're making votes in all those meetings. You saw there's a new, the latest version of the budget is new based on public input.
Yes. Thank you for the explanation. Curious myself.
I appreciate it.
Let me just see if there's anyone else in the room first. Anybody else in the room before we go back to Nick?
Thanks for Common Road. I just wanted to ask a quick little question. I've seen some things like on the town website that there might be like some.
Could you speak up, please?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I've heard that there might be like some new businesses like coming in maybe through like planning and zoning. There might be some new revenue streams coming in. Are you guys aware of like any updates? Cause I did.
Anything is already out in the public, what we know.
Okay.
Jim?
Jim Marshall, Fisher Hill Road. I also serve as the chair of the Capital Group Program Committee and School Building Committee here in town. I say this a lot, but I'll try to be brief this time because I've said these comments at many prior meetings now, but I wanted to address some comments that came up at the Board of Education meeting last night when they were discussing the impacts of the budget. The changes the Board of Finance made to their budget, and suggestion that we could void out this meeting need for a town meeting call based on the decisions and recommendations of the Board of Finance, specifically to endeavor to claw back funding again from capital reserve savings to offset operational budget reductions. That is, in my very personal opinion, will continue to be the wrong choice. It is another opportunity, another attempt at scapegoating operational budget concerns and avoiding the problem. And quite frankly, harming the long-term fiscal solvency of the town related to our long-term capital project needs. So I would encourage, and there was also no new information presented last night at the Board of Education that wasn't available to the Board of Finance when they met last week to discuss these changes to budgets. So secondarily to that, there was also a second suggestion made to claw back funding from the capital reserve for school projects to correct, expenditures in the Board of Ed budget, for repairs to items within the existing school buildings. And while technically relevant to the purpose of that fund, it is, in my opinion, a very slippery slope. Largely because the Board of Ed budget should have funding within it inherently to make annual operating, annual repairs to buildings. They should have a fund. They put that money in the operational budget every year, $10,000 for plumbing, $10,000 for miscellaneous plumbing repairs. It gets stripped out as part of the budget process. So now we're just trying to, it not appropriately budgeting for things does not make pulling it from reserve savings for much needed larger infrastructure projects. A smart plan. We've done it in the past. I probably should have been more vocal about it back then as well. But I would just encourage this board and or the Board of Finance to, and the townspeople most, first and foremost, to recognize that we need to appropriately budget and that we can't continue to scapegoat by or do end runs around unpopular decisions by going back and cutting the capital reserve budgets down. So that's all I'll say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody online who'd like to speak, present to speak? All right, I think I had a couple still in the room. Nick.
Nick Sullivan, Road, just to elaborate, Peter's, point about the hearing. I do recognize that your statement of people have had opportunities to speak at these hearings or these meetings. But, and by no means am I speaking for him, but what I'm saying, or what I'm thinking he's saying is like, that hearing we had initially in the beginning, right, should be revisited again, now on the second referendum, and that's an approach I think should be had, right? So
Thank you. Anybody else in the room? Last call online. There is not a present to speak at the end of this meeting, just because it's a special meeting. So I just want to make sure everyone knows that before you give up your chance to speak. Okay. Moving on. New business, overview of the budget situation, which was the part of the reason to call this meeting, and that is that, as most of us know, at the Board of Finance meeting last week, reacting to the failed referendum, the Board of Finance made adjustments, budgets, proposed budgets. And where that affects this board mostly is in the $70,000 that was reduced from the previous proposed general government budget. And this board will have to make decisions. I mean, 70,000 comes out of the bottom line. It creates the number that goes on the call and goes, so it doesn't have to be solved tonight. But before July 1st, this board has to determine where that $70,000 comes from. So that'll be on the agenda on next Monday's meeting also, is to dig more into the details of that. Also, the Board of Education meeting last night, as was alluded to here, led to a letter being sent today. You have a copy in Ralph's folder. By the way, we knew Ralph wasn't gonna be here, at least at the beginning. He has a family thing he had to attend to. He's gonna attempt to get here, but he's not sure if he'll make it. The letter, I'm just gonna paraphrase because it's a full page, but essentially the letter results from the meeting last night and is asking if the Board of Selectmen essentially would hold off on the call of the town meeting to allow an opportunity for the Board of Education to go back to the Board of Finance and see if there's a possibility of any changes before it becomes a call to the town meeting, which has set numbers on it. in the short amount of time that occurred during the day today in discussion with town clerk, various other people who have expertise on this matter, and the chair of the Board of Finance, it was felt that while the situation we're in is regrettable and is not desirable, and I will say it particularly pains me to know that we're losing positions, people's jobs. The fact of the matter is we have a process. And the process is that the Board of Finance approved revisions to the budget. They sent them to us and asked us to start the process to call the town meeting.
Correct.
And so it seems that it was prudent for us to continue that process.
Correct.
Otherwise, we'd be in a situation where everyone who submits a budget could come back and say, well, I'd like you to reconsider, and this process would go until September.
Yeah.
And that's not to make light of anyone's budget pains. Again, this process pains me. So my feeling was, and there was very, very minimal communication, in email today with the other Board of Selectmen members, just to say, this is the request that's come up. We did not have discussion or debate in email, because we know that's an illegal meeting. We just verified if the understanding was that the proper procedure was to continue as what we were asked to do. So here we are, continuing what we were asked to do. So I don't have anything else as far as, budget overview, other than to say that the letter does detail out some of the pain points that the Board of Education needs to deal with on how to somehow support programs with the reduced budget, which I think is very important information. Again, it affects programs, it affects jobs, which is something we should take seriously. So I don't know, do you have anything else to discuss about the budget situation right now?
I do not.
Okay. Then we don't have Ralph, right? He didn't come in online, right? Okay. All right. So as I understand it right now, where we are. And, Stephanie, I don't know if you can confirm numbers off the top of your head while you're sitting there, but I believe the current status is that the budget that is on the call for the meeting is going to, at this point, looks like it will produce hang on, I gotta find the right boxes here. I believe it produced a 2.6% expenditure increase. Does that sound right?
Yes, for all budgets.
For all budgets. It is expecting a 3% revenue increase.
Yes, and that's from some of the state money that's been.
That's the newest money that we've found out over the last week or so, right? Yep. And that would lead to a 1.26 mil increase.
Right.
If that budget passes. Okay. Let's see. This, by the way, what I read off of, this is from the town website. This is on the town website. Right on the front page.
Another factor that has changed that's often quoted as a guide is the rate of inflation, which is now up to 3.8%.
Okay. All right, then I say we move on to item B, the call of the town.
Yes.
I'm gonna read the call first. Town of Wellington notice and warning town budget meeting for general government and education. The electors of the town of Wellington and all persons who are entitled to vote in town meeting on the matters mentioned in the following warning are hereby warned and notified to meet at the Old Town Hall at 11 Common Road in Wellington on Wednesday, May 20th, 2026 at 7 p.m. for the following purposes. Item 1, to discuss the proposed general government and education budgets for the fiscal year July 1, 2026 to June 30th, 2027. Estimated general government total, $7,013,713. Estimated education budget K through 8, $10,401,957. Region 19, $4,975,893. Total town budget, $22,391,563. Total estimated revenues, $4,566,287. To be raised by taxation, $17,484,276. Less applied fund balance of $341,000. Net amount to be raised by taxation, 17 million. There's an error in this. Hang on, I'm just checking to see if there's an error here. Okay, the number I read previously, after the revenue, I read to be raised by taxation. That I read the incorrect number. That should be 17,825,276. Then we minus the 341,000 of less applied fund balance, creating a net amount to be raised by taxation of $17,484,276. So I'm correct, if you would, you see this right here?
I see it.
Okay, yes,
44 minus 341 is not there.
right. So this is. This will be corrected to the numbers I just read you. When it goes out to the newspapers tomorrow.
17,825 to
276 is to be raised by taxation previous to applying the fund balance. Continuing the reading to item number 2, to set a date not less than 7 nor more than 14 days thereafter for a vote on the annual general government and education budgets by a separate yes or no vote on the voting machines. Item 3, to set the town office building as the polling place and to set the hours of the referendum during which votes may be cast not less than between the hours of 12 o'clock noon and 8 o'clock p.m. and not more than between the hours of 6 o'clock a.m. and 8 o'clock p.m. That is the end of the reading of the call. So to make the motion with that. You call?
yes, I make the motion that we move on the call for the town meeting on May 20th, 2026 at 7.
As correct.
That's correct.
I'll second that motion. Any discussion?
Discussion. Well, the call says to discuss the proposed budget. I was trying, I can't conjure up that statute in my mind when I read it. It's not explicit about what it says. It's just general town meetings. It doesn't specifically speak to the budget town meeting. What is the function of a discussion? I mean, what is? To
Well,
me, I
at the
think
minimum, it's
it's
informative.
informative, but a discussion sounds to me like not a lecture, a give and take, and why can't the budget be altered during the town meeting? Why is, where does it say that is not allowed? Or at least, and what happens, I'm just curious, I mean, I like parliamentary procedure. I think it is a good vehicle for robust public discussion and discourse. So item 2, to set a date. What if not a date isn't agreed on? What if the townspeople reject it? It would be weird, but possible. Just curious. And I'm not suggesting that that's what should be though. Parliamentary procedure has a lot of things built in.
Well, if the townspeople at this meeting rejected the date. Then as long as the date they select fits the legal, there's a window period.
Right, it has to be at least 7.
The in between, right, it has to be, between 7 and 14, I
Or
believe.
7 and 14.
And, so if it's within that window period, I think you just march forward. As long as you can do, you can't, if you make it any earlier, you have to make sure you have time to get the notice of the newspaper.
Oh, right.
Which is why the date is pre-selected, because that allows us to get the notice in the newspaper. And it also allows us to get back around to a referendum date, which would typically be on a Tuesday, whenever possible, because that is tradition. Not that
No, I know.
a referendum is required to be on a Tuesday, but we typically do it on a Tuesday. So this, basically, this schedule's worked backwards from that Tuesday to make sure we have the notification periods and all that other stuff. So that's the sort of tricky thing about the date.
Yeah, no, I understand the date, I'm just, what if every date that was proposed was rejected?
We might have to start over.
Then you have to start over.
And then what will happen is because of the notification periods. As you start to push it out, then you create, like, for example, what happened last year, by the time the budgets were settled. The tax bills have to be created, which means you either create them. You have to create the tax bills with the previous
Mill rate.
mill rate on them, and then you adjust the bills later, which is expensive to the town
It is.
and causes a lot of problems with like mortgage companies and all that when they pay your escrow. Or you delay sending out the bills. If you can fit that window, you delay them, and then you have to pay the printers extra to work 24 hours a day.
Correct. No, I
Calculating the
understand
bills,
the
so-
consequence. No,
Yeah, so there's,
wasn't questioning that, because we've done that. We've been down that road, and that is what happened, so,
yes.
um,
Yeah, so if the townspeople make decisions that push us up, like, for example, saying that date doesn't work for them.
right, right,
Or not passing the vote to move it
correct.
to a referendum.
Right.
Or whatever, whatever the process is, if the townspeople make a decision that stops that and we get up to a certain date. Then it eventually does actually move back, I believe, to the Board of Selectmen, and they have to set the budget.
Right.
They just have to set the budget because it has to get done, you have to start the new fiscal year with something.
And I thought it started with everything back to the way it was.
You go back to the mill rate, but that mill rate may not support all of the budgetary items. So then the selectmen have to basically create a new budget that mill rate funding will cover.
Correct. And there's expenses involved with all of those various delays and changes.
Mhm.
And I understand that, and I think the taxpayers too, because it's happened in the past.
Any more discussion on the call
Enough from me.
from me? Then, I will vote aye.
I vote aye.
Okay, motion passes. I move that we adjourn
I second.
at 7, what is that?
34.
7:34 PM.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, meeting is adjourned.